How's it going, all my tacticians? Welcome to another video from yours truly, and in just a few moments I'm going to talk to you about something that I'm very happy to see. You know, people have been arguing, been yelling, saying or this and that, especially when you go to the Smogon community, saying about how Dynamaxing is broken, etc, etc. But at least when it comes to the VGC meta, I'm going to show you something that's very interesting that I have not seen in a very long time. So without further ado, let's get a quick, let's just watch this little scene play out.
To try here, but it looks like we are going to see the stock trainer cards coming out here. We're going into game 2. Actually, looks like both players have different hats.
Yeah, and they also have different games. Guillermo has Sword, and Jonathan ends up having Shield as well. So there are slight differences, but there is also a difference in the lead here from this Hippowdon and Excadrill coming out from Jonathan, and also a change up from Guillermo. He is still going to be leading with that Mudsdale, but leading this time with the Wash Rotom.
Not something that Excadrill ever wants to see when it comes out onto the field. We didn't see Mold Breaker coming out from Excadrill, so likely to be Sand Rush in combination with Sandstream coming out from Hippowdon here. So not going to be able to hit that Rotom with any super effective damage, as it looks like, if I remember the hats correctly, it's going to be Jonathan here going for a Dynamax.
Yeah, so we'll have to see if it's going to be that Excadrill that we see so often Dynamax, and yes, it is going to be that Excadrill going for that Dynamax, so potentially going for those Max Quakes to take the Hydro Pumps coming out from the Rotom a bit better, or the Max Steel Spikes to take the ground moves coming out from the Mudsdale, but also another turn 1 Dynamax from Guillermo as well, and we'll have to see if this is going to be that Rotom to try and go for some Max Geysers to reset the sand, or it in fact going to be that Mudsdale.
Yeah, Mudsdale coming out onto the field into its Dynamax form, and it's certainly going to be pressuring that Excadrill.
Now, what are you seeing on screen is something I've rarely seen in VGC. And that is absolutely zero mirror matchups. You don't see the same Pokemon twice in this battle. There are some teams that, run similar team spreads, etc., some similar Pokemon, but in this case, currently in this meta, you are not seeing that very often, especially in this particular team. This is like top 8s at a Pokemon regional event in Bochum. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly, but look at that. You see, look at this. You have an Arcanine here. You have the Wash Rotom, Togekiss, Ferrothorn, that little gremlin I keep forgetting, Sableye, there we go, Mudsdale. Then you have the Excadrill, Hippowdon, Dragapult, Indeedee, Lapras, and Chandelure. Where's the mirror? You don't see that very often, people. You do not see that very often. And I think it's because of the combination of, 1, the power of the Dynamaxing, and 2, the fact that we are locked currently into a dex that has only 3 legendaries. Currently, at least. There are only 3 legendaries available, and all of them are banned. I think Silvally is also banned, but it's not much of a legendary. I think it's more like a pseudo-legend, if anything, because it doesn't breach the 600 stat total, and it's not exactly, it has a unique ability, but it has to sacrifice, having any other item in order to actually make use of that. So, let's just go back, let's just go stroll down memory lane. Let's go back into all previous top 8s, etc., top 8s teams for Pokemon VGC World teams. So, first one that we have is VGS, or Video Game System. I think, yeah, Video Game System, VGS 2008. That's when Pokemon was just getting started, We didn't have, a lot of Pokemon out there. A lot of variation, at least. And there was no auto level and no team preview, so people could literally hide what their teams were. at least to the opponent. You couldn't tell what your opponent was running. You had to go on instinct. You had to pick your core. You had to really think about what you were going to bring. If this person has this Pokemon, or if this person has that type, would this work better? Could I bring this, etc., etc.? It wasn't until you actually got into the battle that you knew what they were running. And in best of threes, etc., that would be very important. But as it says up here, it was single elimination. So basically you had one chance to win, and that was it. Then we move on to 2009. Still the same thing, no auto level, no team preview. So these Pokemon were pretty much like at their level 1 or level 100 or so stat. Unless they were specifically told to set them to level 50, train them, etc. to level 50 or so. In which case, I don't think that Salamence would be allowed in, so I'm guessing they were all set to level 100. And that's when you start to see the mirrors starting to come out. That's when you start to see the similar Pokemon spreads, etc. You see the Ludicolo on the same team. You see, Kingdra on the same team. You see, you don't see Lapras on every other team, but you do start to see, certain patterns, etc. You see 2 Zapdoses, etc., etc. Moving on down, we go to 2010. This is when Pokemon, VGC was starting to really get out and about. And they said you could bring all these legendaries, but you could only bring 2 restricted per battle. Not per team, per battle. So it just floods with the legendaries. Kyogre pretty much in every team. Everyone's favorite Pokemon. Groudon going on every team. Got your Palkias, your Dialgas, Cresselias, etc., etc. Ho-Oh, you even got Mewtwo and Latios. I'm actually surprised there's a Latios in there. And Giratina. Giratina actually made it into the top 8 for VGC 2010. The moment we introduced Legends into the factor, that's when pretty much all the other Pokemon are brought out and said, get out of the meta. You're not welcome. Like we can all remember of VGC 2011 or so, or not just 2011. Yeah, I think it was 2011 as well. When Genie's on every team. Why? Because it has really high stats and it has the Prankster ability with the priority Tailwind, priority Taunt, priority Thunder Wave for Thundurus, etc., etc. It was just absolute madness. And of course we have Terrakion as a legendary as well being brought onto the team. Then you have to supplement those legendaries with either really strong physical attackers like say Haxorus here or Conkeldurr. Or I think it was Scrafty or something. Yeah, I think it was Scrafty is what Scrafty. Then or really bulky Pokemon, like say the Amoonguss over here. There we go. Then we move on to 2012, and again, legendaries. Oh, legendaries abound. No restricted legendaries, but national dex and no Dark Void allowed. So Smeargle was not allowed in there. So yay for that. But as you can see, legendaries pretty much dominating the field, with pseudo legendaries mixed in there as well, and the more reliable non-pseudo legendaries as well, like Wash Rotom over here, Hitmontop. I'm actually impressed to see an Executor over there, but mostly just a ton of mirroring and a ton of legendaries, etc., etc. Now we move on to VGC 2013. This is when we're getting more and more closer and closer to X and Y, or Regular Alpha Sapphire, etc., etc. And again, when they allowed the introduction of the legendaries, national dex, no Dark Void allowed, it's pretty much this. It was pretty much the mirror of last year, with the same spread of legendaries. You got the Genies, you got your Landorus, Therians, Cresselias, oh my goodness, I'm forgetting so many Pokemon's name. I am 30 years old. I am starting to get too old. Oh my goodness. Latios, then you got your Hitmontops, and again with the pseudo legendaries, Garchomp, Hydreigon, Terrakion, then your Amoonguses, Jellicent, etc. I'm actually impressed to see a Rhyhorn down there, a Magmar of all things. My goodness, and Volcarona. Oh my goodness, Volcanion. There we go, Volcanion. It took me a while to remember it. Then we move on to VGC 2014, infamous Seijun Park team with the Pachirisu and the Talonflame. where we actually got to see a ton of interesting combinations, but we still see the common trait of bringing in the pseudo legendaries. With certain mega Pokemon. So in this case, Sejun Park had the Mega Gyarados. That was pretty much his only Mega. But for other teams, we had Mega Charizard, Mega Lucario. We had for this team down here, we had Mega Charizard, Mega Mawile. You see Mega Mawile on a ton of teams. It was just super powerful, super powerful. Mega Lucario, though, was very featured in this. Not as featured as I would have liked to see, but it at least made it into the top 8. Then the infamous VGC 2015 National Dex must have the Omega or must have the Generation 6 symbol, which is like the star symbol, etc. And this is where we just get flat out legendaries, etc., out the wazoo. Mega Kangaskhan made its debut, and it just absolutely dominated every team, with exception to 2 with Mega Gardevoir. But other than that, we had legendaries. We had Landorus Therian on every team. We had Cresselia going on almost every team. Heatran on every team. Amoonguss and Aegislash on every team. Volcarona as well. It was just a mirror matchup almost every time, and it was just a matter of who had the better mirror matchup, etc. Who could outplay their opponent, which isn't bad. But, if you're just seeing the same Pokemon performing the same moves over and over again, it's not exactly entertaining. So that was not something I want to remember fondly of. Then we go to VGC 2016. The infamous bring 2 restricted per team with the introduction of the Primals and the Mega Evolution Rayquaza. It was pretty much required to have one, if not both, of the Primals on your team. They were just so powerful. And of course, with the introduction of Power Xerneas, it too was so powerful. We have Fake Out up the wazoo again with Raichu and Hitmontop. We had Trick Room to help deal with, Xerneas, etc. It was just insanity down there. It was like I said, once you introduce legendaries, pretty much all other Pokemon that can or aren't able to do anything similar to what they can do are thrown out the window in favor of these legendary Pokemon. Why would you risk bringing in, etc., a Landorus Therian, actually, when you could have a Primal Groudon? Why risk another Fake Out user when you have one Pokemon that has Fake Out, Intimidate, and Faint? Same thing with Raichu over here. Why would you risk any other Fake Out user when it too has Faint and Fake Out and can carry an Assault Vest and helps counter one of these Pokemon, helps counter, Primal Kyogre, etc. So anyway, moving on down the line, we're moving on down to 2017. We'll get back to our favorite to the current meta in a bit, but we're going down to VGC 2017. This is where we saw a bit more variety, but the Tapus were just on pretty much every team. But with the introduction of, the Ultra Beast, etc., and the Ultra Beast boost, that was providing us some, quite some entertainment. We actually had, every team pretty much required to have, or at least near required to have, at least one Ultra Beast. But you saw some variety. Every team had, something unique about it. For example, we saw Nihilagos there. We saw Xurkitree. Everyone, Damon's favorite Celesteela made it to the top 8. Oh my goodness. But Tapus, and Ultra Beasts. And we even saw Porygon 2 down there. And an Araquanid. That was actually impressive too. And in the Alolan Ninetales. Love the Alolan Ninetales. Then we move on to 2018. Everyone remembers 2018. It was pretty close by. Incineroar, 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 Landorus, 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 Mega Salamence, Landorus, Landorus, Mega Salamence. I think we all get the pattern here. The moment the legends are allowed in, the moment the national dex allows legendaries, pretty much the variety vanishes, and it comes down to a mirror matchup. Snorlax, bulky Pokemon, Tapus to counter the constant intimidates, and to help deal with Mega Salamence, and to help counter Incineroar. We have some Ultra Beasts here, but you don't see a lot of them. Mimikyu, because of Mimikyu in a pre-Sword and Shield nerf, you could set up a Focus Sash or set onto the Mimikyu so that it couldn't be destroyed in 2 hits. Could set up that Swords Dance freely or Trick Room if necessary. And of course you see Mega Kangaskhan. I'm actually impressed that Mega Kangaskhan wasn't as dominant in this meta as it was in the previous meta it was allowed in, especially over here. But then we move on to 2019. I think we all remember that because it was literally last year. And give you a guess as to what was on pretty much every team. Primals, Incineroars, and the Megas. Very few variation here. You got your Genie, you got your Power Orb Xerneas, you got your Blue Orb Kyogre, Incineroar with the Intimidate and the Fake Out, and Snarl. I remember that. Amoonguss there for tanking. Umbreon actually made it into the top 2. That was everyone was. I remember the chat screaming, "Come on, Umbreon!" Because it was Umbreon. It was Umbreon. When was another evolution like Umbreon in the top 8, let alone the top 2? Oh my goodness. But Primal, Legendary, Incineroar. There's Primal, Legendary, and Incineroar there. Tapu, Ultra Beast, same thing here. It's literally a mirror team down there, and it's just kept going and going and going. Okay, now you're all getting what I'm talking about now. Once we introduced the legendaries, and especially the National Dex legendaries, all other Pokemon outside of those really, really common, powerful Pokemon always get pushed out in favor of those more stable, more viable picks, because they're not only just legendaries, but their stats are just super powerful. They're just really, really strong. I mean, I think, Stack Attack not really capable of taking on, Primal Groudon, but it certainly would destroy Xerneas. It could certainly, take maybe one hit if it's trained properly from a Primal Groudon. And it was a really good, wide guard setter, as well it could change its ability with another Pokemon. Can you just imagine Beast Boost Primal Groudon? Oh my goodness, I don't want to imagine that. Oh my goodness. But let's move on to a recent, tournament, not just the Bochum one that I was showing you, but this one, the World Champion Invitational 2020. Look at this. You still see some, common Pokemon here, but they're so uniquely different at the same time. You see Togekiss on a lot of them, but you're seeing some other things. Like I see a Clink Clank here. At least I think that's a Clink Clank. When was the last time you saw a Clink Clank? Mudsdale as well. You saw in that video, Mudsdale was being featured prominently. There's Galarian Weezing. There's Dracovish, Gyarados, a Sigilif. I can't believe I'm seeing a Sigilif. My goodness. And there's I actually forget Eldegoss. There we go. Eldegoss is there as well. There's Gastrodon. I'm like, whoa. So yeah, there are still some repeat variations here. You're seeing some here. Sejun Park again took top with his crazy team combination here, with the Dracozolt, with Galarian Darmanitan, Duraludon, Whimsicott, and the past Simeon, and then Togekiss. I faced off against that team. I made a video about that. But my goodness, I think the reason why we have something like this is because, like I said, the combination of the fact that we have Dynamaxing with all the craziness it offers, as well as the fact that there's no legendaries that can be brought in. So people are people are finding these more reliable picks. And while some Pokemon are more reliable, people are also finding new and creative ways. Like people brought during that top 8, etc., that I was showing you. Like people were using weakness policy Togekiss. Like weakness policy Togekiss. That's the Pokemon I never expected to have a weakness policy. Like I was expecting it to just like be the standard choice scarf flinch, Togekiss, but no. Weakness policy super luck Togekiss. I'm like, what? What? Oh yeah, and Pikachu, because Pikachu's also allowed. Gigantamax Pikachu. So there's some craziness. All right. What do you guys think of this crazy kind of meta here? As I just let the video play out. What do you guys think of this meta that we are currently in which you have like these these real niche Pokemon that would have saw no playtime pre-Sword and Shield, but now thanks to the power of Dynamaxing, being able to give themselves such powerful stats, so much power to work with, being able to set up the terrain in the way they want, etc. What do you guys think about this current meta that we're currently running in? Like, it's just absolutely insanity. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye!
On the wind I hear you calling from the ocean far away. Whisper